It's every traveler's nightmare. You're exploring another country, soaking in the culture, maybe butchering the language a little, and suddenly, boom, you're arrested. Sometimes it's a misunderstanding. Sometimes it's politics. And sometimes you just shouldn't try to steal a propaganda poster. And that's why, today, we're taking a look at some famous cases of people who were arrested abroad and what happened to them. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other terrifying travel stories you would like to hear about. Okay, hope you're ready for some arresting entertainment. We all know what it's like to get stopped by the TSA and feel our stomach drop. Well, multiply that feeling by North Korea. In 2016, 21-year-old University of Virginia student Otto Warmbier was on a guided tour in North Korea, which, right off the bat, sounds like a great way to court disaster. Anyway, cameras caught someone, allegedly Otto, pulling down a propaganda poster in a hotel. When he tried to fly home, officials detained him, and he was accused of trying to undermine North Korea's work ethic and motivation, which in our humble opinion is a pretty big leap from taking a piece of paper off the wall. If you're thinking he'd just get a slap on the wrist for it, think again. Otto was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. Tragically, he fell into a coma while in prison and was sent home a year later in critical condition, passing away shortly after. To this day, no one fully knows what happened to him. It's a heartbreaking story and a chilling reminder of how serious even tiny actions can be in certain countries. Meet Andrew Brown, a British dad traveling through Dubai in 2008. Airport officials searched his luggage and found, wait for it, 0.003 grams of cannabis stuck to the bottom of one of his shoes. For reference, that's less than a single grain of sugar, and not nearly enough to get high on. But Dubai's drug laws are, to put it mildly, terrifyingly strict. And that microscopic amount got him sentenced to 4 years in prison. He served 6 months before being pardoned, and later asked the best question ever: am I responsible for the ground beneath my feet? Who looks at the soles of their shoes? You might know the name John McAfee from the antivirus software on your old Windows computer. Yep, we're talking about that McAfee. But the man behind the software lived a life that falls somewhere between a true crime documentary and a fever dream. He was wanted in connection with a murder in Belize and fled to Guatemala, still claiming innocence and live streaming his escape. Beat that, Twitch. Anyway, he was arrested for illegally entering the country. Then, he faked 2 heart attacks. Apparently just not in the mood for that crap, the Guatemalan government said, "We're sick of this guy," and deported him back to the US, where McAfee did what any of us would do in his shoes: run for president. Twice. Both bids were unsuccessful. Shocker, I know. And somehow, he ended up in Spain, where he died in prison in 2021 under somewhat suspicious circumstances. Between his crypto schemes and conspiracy theories, it's safe to say this guy's life had more plot twists than an episode of Black Mirror. In 2022, WNBA star Brittney Griner was arrested in Russia when vape cartridges with hashish oil were found in her luggage. The charge? Large-scale drug trafficking. The possible sentence? Up to 10 years, which is a lot longer than we recommend staying in a Russian prison. Griner pled guilty, but insisted she had no intent to break the law. The US government declared her wrongfully detained and started negotiating. Months later, she was freed in a high-profile prisoner swap, traded for a Russian arms dealer nicknamed the Merchant of Death, which, for marketing purposes, is a great nickname for an arms dealer. In 2001, 14 British and Dutch aviation enthusiasts were in Greece, geeking out over planes at an air show. The problem? The local authorities had no idea plane spotting was a thing. The 14 were arrested, accused of espionage, and sentenced to 3 years in prison for taking notes and photos of airplanes. After 6 weeks and global outrage, they were released. That being said, those 6 weeks probably weren't much fun, as we imagine most other prisoners weren't all afraid of the guys who were in for writing down airplane numbers. In 1995, beloved British rom-com actor Hugh Grant was arrested in Los Angeles for, let's say, public indecency. A guy like Grant probably could have unleashed an army of lawyers to fight the charges, but instead, he opted for a surprisingly classy apology tour where he basically said, "Yeah, I messed up." No excuses, no spin. Thanks to his honesty and/or the fact that he's one of the most handsome and charismatic white men to ever live, it worked. Grant bounced back, and the incident actually boosted his fame. Heck, public relations textbooks still cite it as one of the best celebrity apology recoveries ever. Amanda Knox was a 21-year-old American exchange student in Italy when her roommate, Meredith Kircher, was murdered. Knox was accused and then convicted, then acquitted, then retried, then acquitted again. It was all very confusing. It was also an international media circus. American media portrayed her as an innocent sweetheart at the wrong place at the wrong time, while Italian media portrayed her as a party girl sex fiend who took a sexual game with her boyfriend a little too far. After years of legal chaos, she was finally cleared for good in 2015. Her case remains one of the most widely debated of the last 2 decades. Lucy Wright went to Argentina as part of a shady holiday arranged by her drug dealer. You can probably already guess where this is headed, which makes you smarter than Lucy. Turns out, her luggage was stuffed with 6 kilograms of cocaine. She was arrested, but bizarrely released before trial. So what did she do? She escaped the country by swimming across a river into Brazil. 4 hours, in the dark, covered in mud, which is an escape plan even Andy Dufresne would probably take a pass on. Years later, British police arrested her, but refused to extradite her back to Argentina, fearing she'd face inhumane treatment. Now that's one wild redemption arc. In 2011, American filmmaker Matthew Van Dyke joined rebels fighting against dictator Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, which was as heroic as it was incredibly dangerous. He was captured and spent 6 months in solitary confinement. But when his rebel buddies stormed the prison, they literally broke the locks off his cell and freed him. After that, Van Dyke went back into war zones to film documentaries, because apparently one near-death experience wasn't enough. In 2002, 22-year-old actor Eric Audet, who'd appeared in the immortal classic Dude, Where's My Car?, got an offer from a friend to help transport leather goods from Turkey. Seems innocent enough, right? Just bring some bags back and make a little cash. Long story short, those bags were full of 3.6 kilograms of opium. Audet swore he didn't know, but Pakistani officials weren't buying it. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison and served 2 before being released after the governor of New Mexico personally appealed for him. Anyway, it just goes to prove what we've always said: if a friend offers you a travel gig that sounds too easy, it's because you're unknowingly trafficking narcotics. Magician Mark Greening was living in Bali when his girlfriend got pregnant, and suddenly, card tricks weren't paying the bills. So, he switched from juggler to smuggler and got to work moving hash into Japan. At first, his tricks worked, and he made around $80,000. But when police caught him in 2002, Greening pulled off the dumbest magic trick in history: honesty. He told the cops where the rest of his stash was hidden, doubling his prison sentence to 5 years. Ta-da! While working at a hospital in Saudi Arabia, British citizen Stephen Comiskey got a text from a friend to meet up. But when he arrived, instead of his friend, he was met by Saudi officials, who ambushed and arrested him for being gay. He was beaten, threatened with death, and forced to sign a confession in Arabic, a language he couldn't read. After 6 brutal months, British diplomats finally negotiated his release. Turns out, the whole thing may have been a political payback after a Saudi prince was convicted in London for murdering his servant, a trial that embarrassed Saudi Arabia internationally. Comiskey's story is a sobering reminder. In some places, your identity can be criminalized. We don't have a joke for that. It just sucks. John White ran a construction company in Abu Dhabi. One day in 2012, after flying back from Ireland, he was detained at the airport, accused of owing £500,000 to creditors. According to him, however, his clients owed him over £1 million, but hadn't paid. He spent 2 years in a freezing 4x4 cell with 6 other men. And when his sentence ended, surprise, another creditor filed a claim, adding 3 more years to his time. White served all 5 years before finally being allowed to leave, but only after repaying debts that weren't even entirely his. Now that's what we call customer service. In 2008, filmmaker Andrew Behrens was shooting a documentary in Nigeria about local women bringing goods to market, which is no big deal, unless you're the Nigerian police. They arrested Behrens, his translator, and his host, accusing them of espionage. He spent 36 hours with barely any food or water and was detained for 10 days before being expelled from the country. That'll teach him to, not film women bringing goods to market. Most recently, Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich was arrested in Russia in 2023 for espionage. Despite zero evidence, he was sentenced to 16 years in prison before finally being released in a massive prisoner swap in 2024, one of the largest since the Cold War. Among those swapped, a convicted Russian hitman that Putin himself called a patriot, because apparently, even in 2024, everyone still loves a good reboot. From accidental crimes to political power plays, these stories remind us that traveling abroad can be thrilling, but also risky if you forget how differently the world operates. In Dubai, microscopic dust can land you in prison. In Italy, a smile can make you guilty. In Greece, binoculars equal espionage. And in Belize, well, no. John McAfee probably did do all that stuff. So clear out that suitcase you use all the time and really wipe off the bottom of your shoes, just in case. So what do you think? And which of these stories shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from Weird History.